Have you told your friends that you see ghosts?
Oh, absolutely not.
Gina Rodriguez returns in Not Dead Yet.
I'm back, baby.
Who is that?
Oh, she's the obituary writer.
And Brad Garrett joins the brilliant ensemble cast.
Titan, Maverick, Titan of all Mavericks. These are all words used to describe me.
Not Dead Yet. Season premiere. Tonight, 8:30, 7:30 Central on ABC. And stream on Hulu.
It's the Happy Families podcast. It's the podcast for the time-poor parent who just wants answers now.
There are only 20 days left. 20 days until Christmas Eve. Welcome to the Happy Families podcast. We are so excited to share this Christmas season with you. On the podcast, once a month or thereabouts, we do an episode called This Week in Parenting. This month in parenting would probably make more sense because, well, there's a lot of parenting news and we don't get to it as often as we should. But Kylie, five stories for us to go through today. That is a whole lot of content to work through. We're going to move through it fairly quickly. Brand new story in the newspapers just in the last couple of days, the hidden epidemic jeopardizing a generation of children. Now, I'm giving you this question without notice. You don't know what we're talking about for This Week in Parenting at this point. What would you imagine that the hidden epidemic jeopardizing a generation of Australian children might be?
It's got to be screens.
It's not screens, but it does start with SC. School. Yeah, it's school. In the 2 years since the first waves of lockdowns closed schools across the country, some students have missed 50% of their classes. A generation of school children are paralysed by social anxiety and they're at risk of being left behind, experts have warned, as the number of students skipping school grows. Now, I know that almost everybody has pretty much finished school for the year now. But as we head into 2024 after the break, there are going to be a whole lot of parents who are saying, what in the world are we supposed to do with our kids, struggling to get them to school? What are we going to do about school anxiety or school refusal, as it's also known? And it seems that experts are really, really worried about this. We have been experimenting with homeschooling as a result of some of these challenges ourselves.
I think this is calling for a systemic change to the way we do education. This is not just a handful of kids who have been labelled too soft to deal with the challenges of day-to-day schooling.
Here's what I think's going on. Honestly, this is what I think. Kids today are more supervised than ever before. They're more scrutinized than ever before. The expectations are higher than ever before. We're seeing perfectionism and anxiety rise like never before. Social media and the way that children are feeling like their lives are under the microscope. All of these things are combining to make life increasingly challenging in an environment that's already so difficult. I think that early next year, when we kick off the podcast again after our Christmas break, we need to do a couple of episodes about school refusal, and what parents can do to support their kids. Big news story.
When I was doing my studies too many years ago now, a poem was shared around the classroom. I think it was called The Red Rose, but don't quote me. And it was just this conversation piece around the fact that a student went into a class and she was with a teacher, and the teacher gave her a red crayon and a green crayon and told her how to draw a flower. And so the whole class did it. And each time art came around, it was the same scenario. This is what we're drawing. This is how you do it. And here's the colours that you need. And the next year she went into a new classroom and she was given a palette, a rainbow of colours and a piece of paper, and told to draw what she wants. And the deep sadness in the story is that she drew a red rose with red and green. And the fact that our children don't have the scope to actually utilise these amazing brains that they have to learn in the way that works for them. The school structure just is so... we have this conversation about kids are taught how to take tests, not so much how to learn. It's all about a process to get them from A to B, as opposed to allowing them to recognise that maybe they don't want to be at B. Maybe they want to be at D or E or F.
Not,
there's so
not on the
many
report card. Not on
there's
the
so
report
many.
card.
No, I'm not talking about grading at all.
I know.
The acknowledgement that there's so many different ways to do it, but we want to box our kids in and say there's only one way. And if your kid does not fall into that, then it's so hard.
The problem is only growing. That is story number 1. School refusal, school can't, school anxiety continues to rise. I don't think it's going to be any different next year. In fact, I'm in the process of building a new presentation to share about mental health challenges in our kids, because I think this is going to be the big topic for next year. Story number 2.
Did you get a little bit cold?
This is one of those that gets under my skin and makes me want to explode. It's one of those provocations that gets me every time, but I'm going to try and be calm as I share this with you. This was in the Townsville Bulletin. A mum has shared a controversial parenting technique she uses at Christmas if her children misbehave. At Becoming Co, shares family life and parenting videos on her TikTok channel. What is the deal with all these TikTokers who have no idea about parenting, who think that they should set up a channel and tell everybody how to do this? This is what she's doing. In one video, the mum shared a video of her young daughter opening a Christmas stocking on Christmas morning. The child pulled out an array of gifts from the stocking before reaching her hand into the bottom and pulling out 3 small lumps of coal. Looking disappointed, the small girl reached into the stocking and pulled out another handful of coal. A caption for the video reads, "Controversial parenting. When I warn my daughter she's going to get coal on her stocking if she doesn't act better, Santa follows through, lol." And I'm just going to say straight out of the gate, that sucks. That is crappy parenting. I'm not usually into parent shaming, but a parent who dumps that on their kids at Christmas, I'm sorry, crappy parenting.
Well, I'm guessing there won't be any coal under our Christmas tree this year.
If there is, I'm going to accuse you of not being a nice wife. In the video, the mother can be heard laughing as she says, "Did you get a little bit of coal?" However, the little girl doesn't seem to mind the gift too much as she says, "That's okay." I just think this is one of those things where having been through what we've been through this year, particularly in relation to our nephew, Logan, and his devastating death, the last thing I ever want to do, even if my children are driving me crazy, is, whether it's at Christmas or any other time of the year, metaphorical coal to teach them a lesson. The only lesson that
we're going to do that unintentionally because we're human. We're going to get it wrong. We are going to get it wrong. We can't change that. But the things that we can change is when we actually intentionally go about our day in an effort to pull our children down, to discourage them and to leave them feeling unloved. Or that they're not good enough.
There's a Facebook post that I shared just recently. There's a guy called Yuri Bronfenbrenner. Bronfenbrenner was a developmental psychologist, just did so much awesome work for such a long time and is just such a dead set legend when it comes to everything child and developmental related. And I shared this Facebook post just a little while ago, a few weeks ago, something that Bronfenbrenner said, and it really struck me as right at the very heart of what I wanted to say when I saw this news story. This is what he said: "Every child should spend a substantial amount of time with somebody who's crazy about him or her. There has to be at least one person who has an irrational involvement with that child, someone who thinks that that kid is more important than other people's kids, someone who's in love with him or her and whom he or she loves in return." The whole idea is that's supposed to be you. That's supposed to be who we are as parents. Our kids are supposed to get unconditionality from us. Conditionality is everywhere around them. We're supposed to be the safe place. When we start giving them crappy gifts, I just think we undermine everything that's healthy in the world for our children. So that's my second parenting, this week in parenting news story.
Story number 3.
Oh, this is an exciting one. Let's move on to some positive stuff. And it was published in Harvard Business Review. This is parenting in the HBR, which I think is great. There's a brand new study that shows that paternity leave helps dads' brains to adapt to parenting.
So this was not something that was on the agenda when we were having children.
No.
But
paternity leave was not a thing.
No.
At all.
But as we've gone into grandparenthood and watched our daughter and her husband go through the whole process of becoming their own little family unit, it's been really beautiful seeing the time that he was gifted, and I call paternity leave a gift to families, to be able to be at home and to just be there. It was amazing. I don't know if all husbands are as amazing as our son-in-law is, but he literally did everything for my daughter. She was scared about him going back to work because she was going to have to do it all for herself. But even when he went back to work, he had everything on the kitchen bench ready for her to make breakfast. So he couldn't make it for her because he leaves at 4:30 in the morning. But he had, all of the spreads, the butter, the bread, the toaster out on the bench ready for her. And what she has found in the very short time she's been a mum is that she has everything cold. Because as soon as she goes to eat, the baby wants her attention. As soon as she goes to drink, the baby wants her attention. She said, so I've stopped making things hot anymore because I know I'm not going to be able to eat it hot.
Well, I'm pretty impressed with how he's going as well. But here's what I want to read from the HBR. The benefits of paternity leave are many. Research has shown that taking time off work to care for a newborn child is good for father-baby bonding, for the baby's development, and the parents' relationship with each other. But there's one more huge benefit that we're just now learning about thanks to new data and research: paternal brain training. So there's a whole lot of research out there that says that parenting is not as instinctive as what was previously believed. It is something that is taught. Decades of research has shown that the maternal brain changes with the demands of having a small human alive, but new research shows that the paternal brain changes as well. And I just love this research because it shows basically that when dads get engaged experiences with their babies, they become different people. They actually become better people. Their brain changes in positive ways. Paternity leave essentially is a free brain training program. It's like muscle boot camp for their brain. Like that's
if they utilize it for what it's there for. And that is the challenge. I'm sure there's plenty of mums out there going, he was not much help.
Yeah.
What's story number 4?
So there's some brand new news out of Bluey land. Everyone loves Bluey. Did you know that Bluey is now available as a video game as of, it's been a few weeks now, 17th of November on Xbox, PlayStation, and also the Nintendo Switch. You can get Bluey. You can play Bluey, the video game, at any time with up to 4 players at once. So parents and kids can play along, like play parenting, play happy families playing Bluey.
Mom, Dad, look what Chattermax can do. Make it stop.
I just thought that was fascinating.
I'm actually surprised that you think that this is a great thing. We've just had massive conversations over the last few days about screen usage, and I'm really shocked that this is something that you find exciting.
Well, here's what we know about screen usage. When we're playing games, we know that playing games can be great socially. We also know that it can be great from a cognitive point of view if we're playing the right games in the right way. And based on everything that we know about how incredibly connected with developmental goodness Bluey is, I've just got a feeling that Bluey, the video game, is probably going to be really great for families to play the game, to go to the beach or to go and dance or go and order takeaway. I just think this would be if there was a video game worth buying, this would be the one that I'd buy.
But this becomes a segue, right, into video gaming in general.
It's the gateway. It's the gateway game. It's the gateway drug.
Don't say that. But there's just an acknowledgement. Obviously, Bluey is catering for a very young audience, which means that this leads into younger kids becoming engaged in this kind of behaviour. And it's got to have a flow-on effect. So I'm not as excited about it as you are.
In The Guardian, it says, considering the success of Ludo Studios' creation, a video game adaptation was inevitable. Getting that right would mean trying to make something primarily for youngsters that was also a game about parenting. And so they've worked together to pull that out and make it happen. And it looks like they've done a pretty good job of it from the reviews that I've read. It seems like people actually really, really like it.
And story number 5.
Okay, very, very quickly. As you said, we've talked about screens quite a lot recently. We've also talked about the parenting influencer who is leaving coal in kids' stockings. The thing that worries me about that story is this research that I'm about to share with you. Parenting in the news from the University of Michigan. 4 in 5 parents turn to social media for parenting advice, according to a brand new poll. Potty training, getting kids to sleep, and toddler tantrums are just some of the challenges parents of young children face. And 4 in 5 parents in a new national poll say they go to the same place to discuss such parenting issues, social media. Nearly half parents rate social media as very useful for getting new ideas to try. That's all I'm saying. I just hope that they're visiting places like Dr. Justin Coulson's Happy Families on Facebook, Instagram, or TikTok, and not whatever that other one was with lumps of coal showing up. That's the latest parenting news for this week in parenting.
Well, in case people think we don't have a funny bone, we've definitely been consumers of bad parenting reels that have us in stitches. But when we think about our own families and how to make them happier, my suggestion is that there's probably some better places we can receive parenting help and information from.
What a great segue to happyfamilies.com.au, which is where you can go to find out how to make your family happier. Hey, thanks so much for listening to the Happy Families podcast. Really excited about the other things that we've got coming up throughout this week. This week on the podcast, please stay tuned. Tomorrow, we're going to count down our top 5 episodes for the year. We're going to tell you what people listened to and why, and share snippets from those top 5 episodes to make your family happier. On Wednesday, brand new stuff that needs to be shared about what can make summer sizzle for you and your family in all the best ways. On Thursday, we're talking about the best books we've read this year. It's our monthly book club, and we're going to count down our favourite books of the year, maybe give you some last-minute stocking stuffer ideas. Oh, and next week, we're going to dive into some Christmas conundrums and talk about our learnings, what's gone well, what hasn't, and what we can do better in the new year. Can't wait for you to join us on the Happy Families podcast tomorrow.